What's up, Flip Factor family? This is Michael Green with the Flip Factor Podcast, the #1 podcast dedicated to teaching you the best practices when flipping houses. The purpose of our show is to share valuable content without any BS. So whether you're new or you're someone who's already running an awesome house flipping business, you're in the right place. Today, we're going to talk about how to estimate repairs with yours truly and Coach Delante.
Thank you for having me back again on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, we love having you back. Delante is a coach with us. He's going to be on a lot of shows. He's a little bit newer to the game, so he actually remembers what it's like to struggle. Sometimes I forget. I've been doing it so long, so Delante always connects us back to like the real, I'm new at this. It's the new struggle. So it's always good to have his perspective. He brings a lot of value to the table. So thanks for jumping in. Delante, before we jump into the content, real quickly, let's do some quick announcements for everyone so they know what's going on, anything cool that might be coming up. We have a local meetup for people who live in the Baltimore, D.C. area. That meetup is May 14th, 2019. Content that we're going to be giving out is how to turbo flip houses, even if you don't have any money. This is a really cool subject. A lot of people don't know how to flip houses, really don't have the money to do it. And we're going to teach exactly how to overcome that. Also, we just started day 4 on the 30-day flip challenge. Everyone's doing it. We're on the page. Everyone's really connecting. It's really awesome. I mean, I've been getting some great feedback on that. Everyone's been having a great time, right?
Yeah, definitely. And, for you guys, if you're interested in joining in the challenge, definitely find us on Facebook under the Real Estate Flip Factor 10X group, and then just jump in and join. I mean, I see like all kinds of engagement going on with people in the group looking for their deal and trying to get that flip done in 30 days. So it's some good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we've ever had so many posts on the page. I'm answering all of them personally. People are letting me know because I have misspellings in there, but we're doing a great job of everyone. And I'm very impressed with everyone in the group. I mean, everyone's just been so positive and just cool stuff happening, man. There's a lot of power in a community. And it's a big part of why we, do these podcasts and all the free groups. There's just a lot of awesomeness that happens when you put a community of people that are like-minded together. And that's what's going on in that group. It's completely free, by the way. So if you're worried, like, well, how much does it cost? Well, it's the best price of all prices, free $99, costs nothing. That's my favorite price of anything. You give me any meal, it's free $99, and I enjoy it, right? It makes you a nice meal. Isn't it awesome?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Doesn't cost a penny. I love it. So you guys might or might not know that me and Delante do coach people on how to flip houses. So if you've thought about it that, you want to improve your systems or processes, or you're just looking to get into the business, hit us up and let us know if you'd like us to help you. We have a lot of free stuff we give. We also have some paid coaching where we walk you hand by hand and really help you out, get you started in the business or get you scaling up your business. Delante's done a handful of deals. I've done about 1,100, really good at scaling businesses, but I'm also really great at the processes of how to get started so you can get deals, because everything about being successful in this business is knowing the exact right stuff to do in the most efficient manner to do it. Right. So we don't take 10 times as long to do something, because often if something takes too long to do, we usually give up. I know that. I always say, ask me how I know, because I've done the same thing, right? That's how we figure this stuff out, right? Delante, I think we've all done some goofy stuff, but that's all part of it. So if you guys are interested, feel free to just message me at the Flip Factor on Facebook or the Flip Factor Podcast on Instagram. Just send me a message. Say, hey, man, I'd like to hear more about the coaching. We'll do a free strategy session, see if we can help you put a plan together for free. If you'd like us to help you from there, just let us know and we'll tell you what we got going on.
Sounds awesome. So for this interview, we're actually going to be flipping the tables a little bit where I get to ask Mike the questions.
Dude, I'm ready. You're talking about my favorite subject ever. If I had to say, all right, there's 2 things I really, really am good at, mostly because if I'm not, I suck and I don't make any money. And it's finding deals. But the thing that I'm really known for is flipping houses, the actual construction, the project management, getting done on time. I've actually have challenged myself to get better at that. Even just like a year ago, I challenged myself to flip a 45K renovation in just 7 days. And we were able to do it. Now, we 100%, me and Delante, he was there the whole way. He filmed the whole thing. So, actually, if you guys want, just go look up like 7-Day Flip, Michael Green. Probably can find it on YouTube or somewhere out there in cyberspace. Delante filmed the whole thing, and me and him the whole time did not think we were going to do it in 7 days, but we were like, what if we did it in 10 days? How awesome would that be also? And we ended up doing it in 7 though. So we totally would have been even okay with 14. The whole thing was to challenge our belief systems, because we all have these beliefs that we can or cannot do things. We have contractors that'll say, oh, 45K, can't do it faster than 2 months. Well, now we know we could do it as fast as 7 days if we have the manpower. So this subject is close to my heart. I love renovating properties. I actually spend less time rehabbing a house than I do wholesaling a house. It literally takes me 2 to 3 hours of my personal time to have a house renovated, because I've gotten so good at it that I've put systems together that other people can follow and do a great job. I don't lose any of my consistency, any of my quality when I have someone else do that. It's taken a little bit of time to learn those systems and to really test them and work them out. We don't do that. It took me a couple hundred flips. I'm not going to lie. I didn't get it perfect right away. I definitely had to take some time with it. But now, after a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of coaches I've paid a ton of money to, I have a really good system that I can follow. So Delante's got some questions, and I hope I have some answers. I'll do my best to give them to you. If I don't, my promise to you is I will go get them, even if I got to Google and call someone, but probably I'll have the answer, I hope.
Get that phone a friend going.
Yes. Reach out and touch someone that's over 18.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I feel like that could have been misconstrued. Let's put that out there. Okay.
All right. So, Mike, let's jump right in. The first question is, when we talk about estimating repairs, a lot of people have this concept of, well, I have X amount of square footage in my house. So if I multiply that by, I don't know, $2.50, I should have this much in repairs. They kind of use this concept of like, well, based on the size of the house, that should tell me how much my repair budget is. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I hate it, man. I'm always, one part about this podcast, I might have some opinions. I will tell you that most of my opinions are deeply researched, and they've been ran by a lot of other awesome people and coaches and great people. So I don't form my opinions very easily. I tend to get a lot of data, I test things a lot before I form a really strong opinion. I have a really strong opinion around this whole by the square foot thing. Just to kind of give you some context to this answer is that for many years, I've probably spent at least $300,000 to $400,000, upwards of $500,000 in coaching. I've done everything. All the big names like fortune builders, anything you can think of, I've spent the $30K on it because I like to educate myself and I want to know everything about this business because it's really all I have personally. I have a 10th grade education. If I'm not good at flipping houses, I don't really have plan B. So I want to make sure this works. And so for me, I'm really, really obsessed with making this safe and making it consistent long-term. Now, what I realized through going through all that coaching is that there's a lot of people out there, we'll call them the gurus, right? That are trying to get a lot of money. Their system is not really in flipping houses as much as how to sell you a lot of products. So they create really flashy, cool things like, hey, we're going to show you how to estimate a property with like just one simple thing. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. Here's a bunch of my money. And then I go there and I'm like, and I test it and I try it because like, there's no better guy than me to test it. I'm out there doing deals and I try to make things work. I'll really push hard to see if they can work. The flaw that I've seen in the square foot thing is that it's just too far off. It is so important to get your estimation costs right that when you do that square foot, it can get you in a ballpark. But let me just give you an idea what kind of ballpark. Like if it's a 50K renovation, let's just pretend that's what it actually is. If you do the square footage, you could be as much as 35K, which would be 15K too low, or as high as 65K, which means you would never get a deal because you're thinking that the renovation's much more than it is. So you don't really have room to be 15K off. When we're doing estimations, it's highly important that we get the numbers right. For me, I want to be able to get within a $3,000 to $5,000 buffer. If I can get within 3 to 5K, I'm feeling really awesome because I know I can make a decision on buying the property. I also know I can make a competitive offer that's not super low or super high. Right? I want to get it right. So we talk a lot about this in our group. We talk a lot about on the Facebook page, everywhere. It's not about making offers. It's about making correct offers. When you make a really good, correct offer that's based on solid information, you tend to get more offers accepted and win more deals. It's the reason that we're crushing the MLS. We go in, we hit people with the right offer. We then take it out the back end, make money, and we're getting deals like crazy. 17 deals last year off the MLS. And if I had to give you one reason for that, it's consistency. And well, I'll give you two. Just so it's consistency. And it's also getting like all the numbers correct, which is one of the most important numbers is the renovation cost. So I don't believe in it. I think it's something that's highly inaccurate. If you're going to be a house flipper and you're going to play this really big game of flipping houses where you can make like really big money, the dream is true, by the way. There's no bull crap in this dream, right? Everybody says, oh, it's too good to be true. No, there's a lot of people making great money at house flipping. However, there's not a lot of people who have not stepped up their game and really learned to process who's making a lot of money. So just know that you will need to get smart at estimating repairs. Now, what we have created is a way to do that pretty quickly and not as quick as saying $30 a square foot times 1,000 square foot. So $30,000 for the renovation. It's not that fast because that's just too fast and just doesn't get you in the ballpark. It really could be really, really far off. And if you're doing that, you'll wonder why you're either losing too many deals or winning too many deals that don't make money, right? We got to to make some money on our deals, and we got to hit that sweet spot when we're making our offer. So hopefully, any more questions on that, or does that pretty much answer your question?
I mean, yeah, I think you covered it pretty much, like, really in depth. Like you said, we always talk about this concept of it's not about how many offers you make. It's about how accurate you are in the offers that you make. You can make less offers, but when you have your numbers tight and you have your numbers accurate, you're going to win more often, especially with the repair costs. That's like super huge. So with that being said, Mike, what have you seen most people leave out when estimating repairs? Maybe things they don't really think about when it comes, later on down the line. Think about, well, how much does it cost for materials and labor? Well, what else is there to it that you think, people don't really tend to think about?
Well, everyone, because they're not familiar with construction, a lot of people are. Let's just pretend it like, 90+% of people have no construction experience, but they want to flip houses. Now, I'm not telling you can't. I didn't have a lot of experience. I just knew that I had to get the experience. And this offers, it's something you can learn on the job. With that being said, it's really smart to start learning some project management, some construction experience. So the first thing that I would say a lot of people leave out, and when I say a lot of people, I'm definitely going to include myself in this when I was new. I had a line item budget when I was new. And I literally had I remember I had about 20 items on that line item budget, okay, that needed to be done in the house. Today, and I didn't get the numbers usually, they could be anywhere from 5 to 15K off when I was newer. Sometimes I'm 20K over budget. I really get it wrong, right? There's just, sometimes I'll get it right. Sometimes I'll get it wrong. It seems like I would do a couple houses and then one would just be completely whacked out. I had no consistency, right? And I imagine a lot of people listening, some of the listeners out there are struggling with that because it's a common problem. I dealt with this problem in my first few hundred houses. It wasn't until I really made a serious commitment to get really good at understanding the numbers and being more detailed. See, for me, I do believe in being efficient, but when it comes to getting the numbers right, my belief is be efficient when you're making the offer. But once you have a verbal acceptance on that offer, you can always go back to the house and get more detailed to double check your work. But before you go to settlement and you're actually going to do this, it's really important that you have a detailed plan. So it used to be about 20 lines and, like, let's just call it like kitchen, bath, that's a very vague way of doing it. Now I have about 51 items. And what I love about having 51 items, seems like it's a lot of work, but what it does for me is each item offers an opportunity for me to think, Mike, is there any cost associated for plumbing? Is there any cost associated for exterior woodwork, right? I literally line item all that out. So I'm making sure as I'm walking around the house, I'm putting a cost in that line if there's work that needs to be done. And if there's not work that needs to be done, then it could be zero. However, I'm asking myself that question. So when I ask that question, I often will get a more correct answer. So this is key to when you say, what do people leave out? Well, they usually leave out a lot of line items. They leave out a lot of jobs that need to be done, and they kind of get chalked up to maybe contingency. Sometimes people don't even have contingency. And then they're just like, wow, it's 10K over. Well, likely the things that cause you to be 10K over just were never put on the budget. That's the biggest thing that I see happen all the time. I personally did it for a really long time. And it wasn't until I took a class called Lean Six Sigma, and it's a project management class, pretty cheap. You can do it online for a very affordable price. And it talked about how to put really detailed budgets together. And I realized I'd done a lot of houses, but I was winging it. Right? I didn't have a really good system for making sure those numbers were tight. And if you're flipping a house, you need the numbers to be really tight. And if you're just wholesaling it, you just want them to be good so that you're on the same page with the person you're selling it to. Because if you think it's 30 and the person you're selling it to thinks it's 50, well, there's going to be a big discrepancy there. It's going to be hard to get a deal done if you're that far off. So you don't have to be like within $10, but it'd be nice to be within $5,000. So you guys are talking the same language if you're wholesaling.
And, speaking on the fact of the line item budget, I mean, I've seen some of the ones that you do for the rehabs and stuff. I mean, you go down to the point of budgeting out landscaping and staging. Those are stuff you typically don't think about early on in the rehab process, but, those are costs associated with getting the house done. So yeah, I can definitely attest to having that more detailed line item budget, as a guide to follow when you're walking through and estimating repairs, because there are some things that kind of slip your mind if you don't actively think about it,
One piece to add to that too, Delante, that I think would be useful for the listeners to hear is not only does it work as a line item budget for you that, you know what you're paying for everything and it causes you to think through the actual cost. It ends up being for me like my scope of work. One of the reasons I have so much success keeping budgets and getting things done on time is I don't ever overwhelm my contractor with like, hey, do the whole house, tell me what it'll cost. right? I start with like a little small jobs. They're so much more easy for the contractor to comprehend. So if I'm starting with like the first line item, which might be demo, and I have $1,000 in for that, well, it's really simple for me to say, hey, Delante, man, look, I need you to demo the house. It's $1,000 work. Cool. And they're like, okay, cool. What else you need done? Hey, why don't we just work on that first? When you're complete that, I'll give you a check, and then we'll talk about a couple more line items. Right. But what I'm doing is I'm not really over investing into that contractor until we have a relationship, until they've done a couple line items and they've shown me that they can perform. And so I'm using this tool. This thing is like pretty detailed, but I'm using it for a lot of different reasons. I use it to send to my lenders. I use it to keep my contractors in line. I use it to protect myself. So, it's, you know, you think that like that's efficient by not having like 18 documents you have to create to do all that. I have one document. I run my whole business off of it. Does it take me a little time? Sure. It takes me about an hour to do. If you're new, it might take you 2 hours, but you're trying to make $30,000 on a house. Do you think it would be okay to put 2 hours of your time in to protect yourself? 100%. I can tell you that most people, when they come to me and they're like, Mike, I went way over budget. We both agree after we analyze how they went over budget that a lot of it was just the fact that you just didn't dive deep into the details. They trusted someone else and hoped that that person would give them all, you know, kind of protect them and take care of them. And unfortunately, in this world, we have to take care of ourselves, right? It is really important.
Yeah, and I think you pretty much segued into the next question I was going to ask you, which was, how do you feel about getting quotes from contractors versus estimating the repairs yourself? Because like you said, you have to protect yourself and it's your money that's at stake. You know, a lot of people think that because they're contractors and they're licensed, they know the repairs. And so they should trust them over, you know, doing the repairs themselves, Bill. So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like this is my opinionated podcast today, man. I'm pumped. I'm giving like opinions are just shooting out right now. Like, you know, this is my area of passion when I get super opinionated about it. I'm like, dude, so here's a great example. My fifth deal, I lost $31K on it. How I lost $31K on it was I had a realtor, because I didn't really know how to comp in anything at that time, who had been going out and doing all the work for me and telling me what the value was. She told me the value was $325. Like 6 months later, it's sitting on the market forever. It did not sell. We ended up having to take $250 to sell it. Now it's 75 grand off this realtor was. So what I realized from that lesson that I think is very relevant to your question is that I couldn't rely on my realtor, that I had to get access to the MLS. I had to do my own comps. I needed to make my own decisions because, see, Mike cares about Mike's money. And the realtor cared. She just didn't care as much as I care, obviously. So, you know, because that was not we ended up losing $31,000 on that. She didn't make a commission. We fired her. But at the end of the day, you know, she didn't lose anything either. So she had a zero. Like, I'm totally cool with zeros. I don't get all that upset if I zero on a flip. But when I write a check for $31K, man, I am pumped. Dude, I cannot, like, if you went the rest of your life and never lost $31K on a flip, that would be freaking awesome. So it's part of what I hope that I'm helping people with by sharing these stories and sharing this advice is that you'll never have to go through the pain of writing a $31,000 check. It's one of the worst things can ever happen. Luckily enough, it was my fifth flip and I had made some money on the first four. So I essentially was just taking $31K from my profits. But man, was that a kick in the gut? Yeah, that was my first lesson in, Mike, you need to figure this stuff out yourself. I was very fortunate that I had already kind of figured out the pricing for contracting myself, but I hadn't figured that part of the business out. So I vowed from that day on to become a master of comping, understanding values. It is one of my strengths because I spent a lot of energy. Like, I don't want to ever lose 31K again. Right. That was just too much for me. And I have to say, for most people, writing a check for 31K could be the end of their career. And honestly, if it would have happened sooner to me, it might have been the end of my career. But luckily enough, it was like 5 or 6 rehabs in. So it wasn't as painful since I had a little bit of money. I had a little cushion to make that go away. With that being said, I will tell you that the one common denominator that I've seen with people who get really out of whack is when they call their contractor, and their contractor, here's 2 things a contractor can do that can really set you up for failure. One would be the contractor can tell you a price that's much too low and then not honor that price. So I've had a contractor one time on a house that I spent $51,480 some dollars roughly on it to rehab it. He gave me an estimate for $40K. I bought the house based on that. And then he came in, he's like, I thought it was kind of cheap, but I was like, hey, maybe I found a winner. I found someone who's affordable. Told me all the reasons why he could do it that cheap. And then I buy the house and I'm like, hey man, when you want to get started? And he's like, oh man, that's too cheap. I can't do that. That was just for this, this, and this. And I'm like, what? So I obviously didn't hire him. So he just literally, there's no binding, if they tell you too low of a number, there's nothing to keep them there to do it. Right now, A second thing that happens is a contractor comes in, and this happens way more often than the low number, is they come in and give you a really high number. So like for a 50K, they might be like, yeah, Delante, that's 70K and I'm super cheap. I work with investors. And honestly, 70K is a cheaper price than more retail. Retail pricing on a renovation could be double or triple what your pricing is. So if you're at 50K to renovate a house, you could literally get estimates as high as 100 to 150K from the wrong people. Now, I'm not saying these people you ever want to deal with, but these are the more retail people. So our job is we have to find subcontractors. And I believe in order to protect ourselves when it comes to estimating, we kind of have to know it ourselves. Two couple things that happen that you lose when you use a contractor is, let's say that Delante calls me today and he's looking at a deal. He's like, Mike, I got a good deal for you, right? A lot of times me and Delante will jump in a car. We take the computer, we take the tape measure, a video, and we run out to that house like 30 minutes later and we're comping it with Wi-Fi off of our phone and we're running numbers right there on the spot and we are making decisions and getting on the phone with the agent and trying to get the deal done right there, or the wholesaler and trying to get the deal done right there, because we know hot deals, they don't stay on the market very long at all. They're gone really quickly. Imagine, so that's what's working for us. That's why we're getting 17 deals a year on the MLS and we're getting like 10 or 12 wholesale deals a year, because we're quick, because good deals don't have a very long shelf life. In our experience, 2 to 3 days, they're gone. And within, I think the most optimal time is to get it in the first 24 hours. So if you're counting on a contractor to give you an estimate, problem number one is he probably isn't going to make it there in 24 hours. Likely he's going to make it there in the next couple of days. And that's just going to put you behind the 8 ball, because now all we call the slow money comes in. See, the people come to see the house 3 to 4 days in, that's the slow money. The people that are really slow, well, guess what? They're motivated buyers because they can't get deals because they're so slow. So when they come in, they're willing to pay a little more because they're so desperate. So we got to be careful not to compete with them, because they have higher motivation to buy than we do, because we're abundant. Like, we buy a lot of deals, so we always have plenty. Well, they don't get many deals, right? So they're desperate to buy a deal and they often will pay too much. The best way to beat out the person willing to pay too much is know that the avatar or a behavior pattern of someone who pays too much is they're slow. And that's why we call them the slow money. Slow money is always higher. The good news is if you're really quick and you can make your own decisions, you beat out the slow money, right? You could start getting in there fast. And guess what? In the first 24 hours, it's all the real investors. So a lot of times I'm just trying to beat other guys that are using numbers like mine, and I just have to nibble them out and win a deal. I don't have to get into the people willing to pay $10,000, $20,000 too much. That's who we wholesale to, by the way. We're picking it up at the quick number, the number we can knock it out fast in 24 hours. Then we put it under contract, and then we put it out on the market for 2 weeks and wait for the slow money to come. See, the slow money will always pay much more than what we paid for it, and that's how we make $10,000, $20,000 assignment fees. If we're going to wholesale, or if we're going to renovate it, that's how we get good deals right on the MLS. It's got to be quick. So the contractor represents a really slow way. So imagine they're coming out 3 days later, then they're telling you 70 when it's 50. You could see why relying on a contractor could just be death to your business. You do have to commit, and you need to learn either from a coach or someone, like, what are the numbers and how do I get to these numbers quickly? Because like students of mine, when we're working in our mastermind, they generally within like 3 to 4 weeks can walk through a house and really estimate a house like very well, like better than the average investor out there. I mean, I've seen some of my students do a better job at estimating than people who've been in the game for 3 to 5 years and flip tons of houses, because they're spending energy and time working on becoming better. See, where most people just do what's worked for them in the past and they never find a reason to improve it, we constantly keep pounding at getting better. Constant, never-ending improvement.
So, Mike, with all that being said, I mean, it sounds like speed is the name of the game when you're trying to win deals. You know, with speed, you have to be able to estimate these repairs accurately and fast. So what's your process for estimating repairs quickly that gets you these deals and, you know, gets you winning more often?
So I have 2 processes. One is my quick reno estimator. It's a tool we use in the training. It's also, everything goes in my training comes from my business, by the way. So I don't have anything I've invented like guru stuff, really fancy, cool name to it, anything like that. I don't do that, right? I basically, when we're training, you're training like you were in my company working for me and learning to flip houses. Because it's just how I train my acquisitions guy, my renovation guy, whatever it is. I want everyone trained the same as what I do, because that's what works. Does it require a lot of my time? Yup. But do I get awesome results with students? Absolutely. More importantly, I get awesome results with my people. So I'm able to run a business that runs without me all the time. I'm able to do 70 houses a year in 15, 20 hours a week, because I'm able to train people in systems that have been tested and works. So a quick system that I use, and this is a system you might need to create. Like if you're not one of my students, or, you know, you probably need to create it on your own, but I'm going to give you a feel for what it is. Essentially what we do is I always have a foundation to the property. So I call it the baseline of a renovation cost. And then I take away or add to it, or I add to to it or take away depending on what is in the house. So I'm going to give you an example of a house in Baltimore that we do quite often, like a 1,300 square foot Cape Cod house that's like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths with a finished basement. We usually will start out with a foundation, a baseline of $50,000. Now, any really big item that it needs that we wouldn't call like standard renovation. So standard renovations, paint, carpet, maybe some doors and trim, some cabinets, appliances, tile, all that stuff's going to be part of the standard renovation, the landscape. So 50K is going to cover all your standard things. Now, some additional things where I would start adding money to it would be is imagine that we look at that same house and it has all the standard things, plus it has maybe waterproofing that needs to be done in the basement. So we're probably going to add 5K for the waterproofing. Maybe it needs a roof. That's another really big thing we add. That's another 5K. Maybe it needs a complete finished basement. We're going to add another 5K for that. So if we take the 50K foundation and we know we need waterproofing, we need a roof, and we need a basement finish, that's $65,000. Now, it's very scary. Again, I made this seem very simple. You do have to train on it to get it really honed in over time. But I had a $12 an hour property runner I taught him in like 2 weeks how to walk out to a property, use this exact system, and he could come right back to me and be like, Mike, this is 65K. And I would look at it and I'd be like, man, that was pretty close. Wow, awesome, dude. And it's kind of scary because it took me years to be able to do that. And he learned it in 2 weeks. But I used my years of knowledge to make a simple way, because the big struggle we had in my business, the bottleneck in my business when we were going from like 50 houses a year to like 100 houses a year was me. Right? Everybody had to come through Mike because Mike was the only one that was really great at estimating. So my partner kind of challenged me. He's like, hey, why don't we create a system where we can take what's in your head and make it simpler for, like our property runners, our acquisitions people, our realtors, so they can look at homes and kind of put a quick number on it and decide if that's a good deal and it's worth your time or not. So we spent probably close to a year building out that system, but now we can train people very quickly on it. I know I trained you on it, Delante. How long do you think it took you to learn it where you start feeling really competent at like walking through a house and estimating?
It probably took me like 3 or 4 houses using it before, I was starting to feel really comfortable with the numbers I was getting. So it was like quick. Like
How many hours?
Quick. How many hours? I mean, I would say within the first couple of hours of using it, I like got the feel for it. And then from there, I just kept using it, and then it just became like magic from there. It was like boom, 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 bam, done. 5 minutes. Here's the repair costs.
Dude, so that's what you need in your business. To answer your question, how do you quickly do it? Well, you need a system. You need a system for walking through and figuring out the numbers. If it took Delante 3 or 4 hours, well, he works with me every day. So he does have the luxury of like picking my brain, and he probably heard a lot before he ever did it. He was my video guy before he ever became a coach. So Delante got to see and hear a lot of cool things before he ever got in. But let's just pretend instead of 3 to 4 hours, it takes 20 hours. Would it be worth investing 20 hours if you really are serious about being a house flipper to get great at estimating? I can promise you that if you were to get really good at estimating, and that took you 20 hours to do, that you would have a complete distinct advantage over your competitors. 1 out of 100, maybe 2 out of 100 people are really good at estimating when it comes to house flipping. I know that people think, well, hey, my buddy flipped 100 houses. He must be good at that. No, I promise you that most people are not great at it. And because they're just barely getting by, or they're trusting contractors, they're definitely winging it. And it's much like, saying, well, hey, my friend's a realtor. They must know what the value of a property is. That's just not true. This is even crazier thought process. How about my friend's an appraiser? He must know the value of a property. Okay, that's actually his job to appraise value. And I've seen appraisers be 20, 30K off because, and there's a reason for it. The bank has a very specific way they want them appraising. So it's never for an appraiser about finding the true value. That's what we're looking for as renovators. We want to actually know, like, what is a house really going to sell for? An appraiser has to follow a process that makes the bank happy. So the appraiser could be low or high based on, because he's restricted or she's restricted by a process that the bank makes it makes the bank happy, right? He has a customer and he has to make that customer happy. Yeah, man, just because someone has the title, don't ever believe that means they know the numbers. Like, he's a contractor, he must know the numbers. Heck no, man. You have to know the numbers. You have to become a master of it. And if it takes you 10 hours, 20 hours, you got to pay a coach, someone, do it, man, because you can't be in this business if you're going to be like laid back about stuff. There's no, like, Delante said it was like magic, but guess what? He put work in to make the magic, right? He had to practice to spell a little bit before he could cast it. And it's just the way it is, man. There's no magic where we just rub the genie bottle and it's like, oh, one of my wishes, I'd like to know how to rehab and how to estimate properties. No, it's not going to happen. You got to put a little bit of work in. Key is making it easy. Sorry, go ahead, man.
No, I was gonna say, I mean, there's there's a lot of value that you just dropped, like tons of gold bombs. But one of the things I want to really highlight that you talked about was this idea, because even when we get new students into our mastermind, they're like, well, we're using the desktop rental estimator, but is it right? Like, is it accurate? It's accurate, but it's accurate enough to get you into the deal. Right. And then there's the second part, which is when you start investing the time, those hours, the 20 hours, like you said, when you break out that line item budget, once you're in the deal and your offer's been accepted, but you haven't turned in the money yet, that's when you start to fine tune from there. And that's one of the processes that we use to, win. And I think that's one of the processes that we use to like really get results for ourselves and for our students. Like it's two parts to it, right? It's almost like the soft renovation costs. And then once you're in the deal and everything's good to go, before you hand that deposit in, then you go in there and really figure out the numbers. And however long that takes is completely fine, because that's when the money's on the line and that's when you need to put the work in.
Yeah, man. You just learned, I mean, everyone, that's a big part of what I've implemented in my business is digging deeper so you can get more consistent results. Anytime, if you're not getting great results, I bet if you looked in the mirror and you were truthfully asking yourself, how hard have I worked at becoming good at this one thing? I bet you would look at yourself and realize you actually haven't put a ton of work into it. Right? You just, you relied on your contractor, you relied on your agent, relied on an appraiser or someone else that you consider to be an industry expert. Remember, unfortunately, if you're going to run a business and be awesome, then you're going to need to rely on you and your own systems and processes, and then teach people your process so they can follow it. And that's the secret sauce to what every successful house flipper. I didn't invent that. I'm not a genius. I literally just study other successful people. That's part of how I've become successful, is watching what others are doing. And I've never met an amazing house renovator, flipper, wholesaler, landlord who did not have amazing processes that they followed and they tested and they tweaked over years, and then they taught them to others, because that's the secret, right? Now you can, once you have that process, you can duplicate it with someone else. That's how you start growing your business and multiplying yourself.
So Mike, I guess this is the last question that I have for you. What was your number one learning lesson that you got from the School of Hard Knocks when it comes to contractors and estimating repairs and stuff?
I feel like we talked about this a little bit, but don't trust contractors. And I'll tell you my number one learning lesson is, yeah, man, don't listen to contractors, because I'm going to give you like one quick story. When I was new, I had bought a house with a foundation issue. This house, it was bad. Like my partner wanted to pass on it at the time. I kind of was very nervous. It was only maybe like our 10th house we had done. We weren't very deep into the game. However, I made a suggestion to my partner. Instead of like just passing on it, I said, why don't you let me get some estimates, right? I'll take the highest estimate back to the seller and see if they're willing to take that discount off the home. So the highest estimate to fix this foundation was $55,000, right? I mean, it was pretty expensive from a company called B-Dry, like a local, you see them everywhere. And the reason they're so expensive is because they're giving me like a lifetime warranty. There was some guy came out in a really nice Under Armour polo and a nice truck, and they got a lot of expenses, right? They're definitely not cheap, because they're running a real business and they're very retail. And $55K, I took it back to the seller, and the seller, surprisingly, we took a pretty hard position, like either take it off the price or we're not doing it, because honestly, we were a little nervous. So we were letting the seller make the choice for us. And the seller's like, you know what, if I don't have to pay that out of my pocket, we can just reduce the price at settlement. I'm okay taking $55K less. So we ended up getting a $55K discount. Now, with that being said, I'm really a cheapskate. So I didn't accept a $55,000 estimate. I literally took we had about 3 weeks before settlement, and I got 18 more estimates, and I was able to get that foundation thing done for $15,000. And they even took up a driveway and a deck for me as part of the $15K. So, and they did a great job on it. It turned out really nice. I didn't get the lifetime warranty. No dude with a polo. It was a dude with a wife beater instead who did it, and a truck that definitely needed a paint job. But he knew what he was doing. He was a foundation expert. He actually, funny enough, subcontracted part-time for the company who gave me the $55K estimate. So you could see how by not paying that retail company, I was able to save $40,000 on the price. And that ended up being, to date, my best deal I've ever done. I made $108,000 profit on a $270,000 house. Like that is pretty unheard of to make that kind of profit. I'm not a big profit guy. You'll never hear crazy stories about how I made $19 million profit. No, dude, I'm just going to tell you a lot of stories of how I make like 25 to 40K every house. And I repeat the process over and over. It's really boring, but awesome too at the same time. And it really allows like consistency. It's almost like, I love that, by the way. I know some people like shooting for the moon. I personally just like to have something I can rely on, something that's consistent. So my lesson I learned from that was, don't trust estimates, because I really really thought the 55K was the price. And when I really shopped around, I found that there's people that are 55K and there's people that are 15K. The funny part is if I would have hired them for 55, there's some decent chance they would have sent this guy to do the work and then just pocketed $40,000. So I don't listen to contractors anymore. The solution to that problem is I created standardized pricing in my business. So now everything in my business has a standardized price, right? There's no getting estimates. And if somebody comes in, they're like, I got 300 foot of flooring to do. I'm like, I pay $1.50 a foot, 300 foot of flooring, $450. Are you okay doing that? I call them on the phone. We don't even let them do estimates. If they want to come look at it just to confirm it is what we said it is, fine. But like it's $450. Like, no, we don't need to talk anymore after that. It's standardized. Same thing with painting, same thing with windows, right? We have standardized pricings for everything we do. That way we don't have to negotiate with price. Contractors know what they're going to get paid. They don't give me one price on the first house to get in the door and then up the price on the next house. Every single house, I can walk through it, use the standardized pricing, and I can come up with an estimate that I know I have 3 to 4 contractors that'll do it for that price. It's already predetermined. It's agreed upon, and everyone's happy to do it, by the way. A lot of people love working what we call transparent, right? They like having a transparent system where they're like, I do this much work, I get paid this much money every week. People love that. They love that consistency. It's a key to leadership. So this is my big solution to my big problem. That's like my biggest thing that I found out. Well, don't listen to contractors. Solution, create standardized pricing.
When you were telling me about the standardized pricing, when, I was first learning about it, you said it's kind of like how Walmart, you go into Walmart and you see strawberries there at $3 or whatever. You don't go to the cashier and then negotiate like, hey, can I get this for $2.50? No, the price is what it is. And that's the biggest tip to estimating your repairs, right? As long as you know what the repairs are and you're firm what the price is, you go out and find the contractors that are willing to do it for that price. And then you make your repairs happen from there. It sounds like that's one of the best ways to keep your repair budgets within budget and keep them safe,
Yeah, we never apply that technique. I mean, I want you to think about Costco, great buyer, Walmart, great buyer, Home Depot. Like if someone says, I want to work for Home Depot and do windows, well, they don't come in there. Home Depot doesn't say, hey, man, well, go give me an estimate and tell you what you charge. Home Depot's like, they're like this. Here you go. Here's our pay sheet, and this is what we pay. If that's cool, let us know. We'll send you some work. That's how you deal with contractors, by the way. That's how you control your cost. Because one of the greatest moves when you hire a GC is they love to give you one price and then change order you to death. They like to be like, oh, I can do it for 50. Next thing you know, end of job, it's 65. And they have a lot of excuses like, well, we didn't know that you would need that piece of wood. The one I love is when I ran this early on was a guy who was like, yeah, there was all kind of bad wire in the attic. And I'm like, well, could you get in the attic? He's like, yeah, I didn't feel like climbing up there though, so I missed it. But you got to pay me for it because it's a change order. And it says right here, you could do change orders. I'm like, that's unfair, man. Why don't you just get your butt up in the attic and look? Like, here's an extra $2K, man. So that was how I got all like fired up when I was new to this and people were change ordering me to death. I can only take so much, to be honest. I'm one of those people that's very cool and chill until someone's taking advantage of me. Then I start to like freak out because I'm like, all right, I'm not anybody's punk. And I start thinking like, all right, you treat me with no respect. And then I get all fired up about it. I think that's one of the reasons I've learned a lot of stuff because I like to have control over my business, my pricing and all those things because it really stresses me out, man, when I buy based on 50 and it turns into 70 and I don't make any money. It's like one of the worst feelings ever in house flipping. So standardized pricing is the key. Stop asking what you charge and start telling them what you'll pay them. Well, I make it sound simple there, but it actually is more to it, but it's a simple concept once you apply it.
Makes sense. That's all the questions I had, Mike. I think you definitely covered this topic in lots of detail and you definitely shared a lot of great value and knowledge for our listeners out there. So, thank you for that.
Dude, you're welcome, man. And thank you for jumping on and asking great questions. There was some awesome stuff. I hope that everyone listening got a lot of value from that. This is the cool stuff that we love to talk about every day. We're super passionate. Me and Delante pretty much talk about real estate all day, every day. It's super nerdy, but it's awesome and fun because we love it. We're passionate about it. It's why we don't feel like we're ever working. We really love this business. If you're excited about being in the business too, man, remember we coach, we'll help you out, or just listen to some of our free stuff. We're totally cool with that too. I love seeing people have success. There's a lot of love and a lot of value that we get in return for helping a lot of other people to get into this business and change their lives. And that's my mission, to do that and give back. I am still an active flipper, so I don't charge a lot to coach because I want to make sure that everybody can afford it and everyone has the opportunity to be part of this and really get some great results. I have students that are doing 30, 40 deals a year. I have students who have never done their first deal. So I am an equal opportunity house flipping coach. I help everyone, depending on where you are. I've done almost 1,100 deals so I can teach people to scale their business from 30 or 40 a year. And if you haven't done your first deal, I can certainly teach you how to do that too. Because the same awesome systems that people use to go from 50 to 100 are the same systems you want to learn when you first are doing your first deal. You want to make sure you're bringing the best systems into play. Right? It's going to give you your best chance of that first deal doing well. So remember, we coach. I only say that. Did we say that before, Delante? Did I ever mention that we coach?
I don't know, man. I don't think you mentioned that we coached yet, man. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just put it out there in case no one heard. Like, I know we're probably beating it in. You're like, Mike, move on. I give a ton of value, man. We make sure our show is like mostly 98% value. And then obviously we do want to let you know we coach. If you want to hook up with us, just hit us up on Facebook at the Flip Factor. We do have a free Flip Factor 30-day find a deal challenge going on right now on the Real Estate Flip Factor 10X Facebook group. I would love for anyone listening to jump in. We got a ton of comments, ton of value going on there. Probably one of the best ways to get free coaching would be to join that. It's just awesome how much good stuff's going on in there. I've been so proud of everyone in the group. They've been just going above and beyond to help each other. It's been really impressive. And it was my vision when I created the group for that to happen. I feel like it's finally happening. Everyone's just doing some cool stuff. And it's awesome for people who don't have a lot of money and want to get into house flipping, but are really on like a very light budget, don't have money for coaching. Well, there's a great way to get some free coaching. So go join that group. And if you're interested in maybe getting some more personalized hand-holding, then just, again, you can hit us up on that page, any of my social media, Michael Green, the Flip Factor podcast on Instagram. Delante, man, thank you. It's been a great conversation having you here. Thank you so much. Again, this is Michael Green. Thank you for joining us. My work is done now and yours has just begun.